Hello, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending where you're joining us today. I'm very happy to see already people joining the stream and engaging with us. Thanks so much for your patience. And we are gonna be doing this live right now, so no need to wait anymore. Thanks so much for joining us this week. And one of the first live streams that we're gonna have this year, talking more about everything that we launched yesterday, was a really big celebration here because we worked so hard last few months to have it ready. And I do want to invite my colleagues here, the founders of CodeSandbox, to tell us more about what exactly did we release this week. I have with me today Yves and Bas, the co-founders of CodeSandbox, and we're going to have a bit of a walkthrough recorded by our head of product, Nicolene, literally after this session. Hey, Bas. Hey, Yves. How are you doing? Still excited and still nervous, or still only exciting and in celebratory mode?
Celebratory. Yeah, it's the release went
Great.
well and everything is working as expected. I think that's always the thing when you do a release that you're wondering does everything work as expected? Does everything work smooth? And it's been working quite well. So now we're mostly celebratory.
Yeah, I agree. And yesterday, after we literally push it out, and we were like for 5 minutes, everyone was like, "Okay, did anything break big? We have issues big. Did people complain yet?" And we were like surprised in a good way, expected surprise that things went smoothly, and we did receive some good feedback. We do understand that maybe some people were not be that happy with it, but we are open to hear you out, so do reach out for different scenarios or different situations that you have with your account. We will be sure to reply, and for sure, we try to cover all scenarios we have with our users. Okay, let's roll it. What exactly did we launch yesterday with CodeSandbox CDE? Want to tackle this, Yves, maybe? Or was this something that you envisioned when you started with Buzz CodeSandbox? Few years
Yeah,
back.
yeah, that's true. This is also something that I mentioned yesterday to the team. Back when CodeSandbox started, which is ages ago. It started as a student project at our university in 2016, and we released the first open source version of CodeSandbox in 2017. And back then, it was built for React components. Really, it was built to share and create React components. And later on, more and more people started to build more advanced examples on CodeSandbox. We saw some blogs, we saw some personal websites, and then bigger and bigger projects were created on CodeSandbox over the years. And one of the big ones was Excalidraw. And we started to ask ourselves, like, how can we enable CodeSandbox to build like anything? Because the idea that you can go to the browser, that you can build something from scratch, and that you can share it with others by sharing a link, and they don't just see the static code, but they see it actually running. It's super powerful. It doesn't only make it easier to share your work with others, but it also makes it easier to learn how to code, because you don't have to set up a development environment to just see what someone else is building. Uh, we were thinking of this back in 2018 or something. Um, and we kind of concluded that if we want to be able to run your development environment, we will need to run it on a server, because that's the same environment as you would have on your laptop. And at the time, there was not really a lot of technologies out there that would allow us to make this fast, to do it in a speedy way.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, I'm not sure exactly what year, but Firecracker came out, which is a VM technology. And that enabled the flow. And since then, we started working on this experience, a new version of CodeSandbox that is powered by Firecracker, that essentially allows you to run anything. You can even run systems that have like 64 gigabytes of RAM and 32 CPUs. We're not limited by just running JavaScript, but we can run Elixir, we can run Rust, we even have a demo where we create a Minecraft server on CodeSandbox. we've been working on that for a long time. We've been working on that for the past 3 years, I'd say. And now it's really released in a way that everyone can use it, that you can choose what specs you want to have for your project, that you can import your private repository. Now we really have launched a version of CodeSandbox where you can use it for development. And that is a huge milestone because it's something that we were thinking about in the early days of CodeSandbox, and now it is finally possible.
Indeed. I really like that you mentioned some important milestones there, thinking that we thought about this path for the project before we literally had the technology chosen or the technology available. And these are things that were not necessarily in our hands to make, but we were happy that they came along to improve our experience and to help us build, like you said, faster and more reliable online. Um, and you also mentioned the big changes, and we announced yesterday part of this release was also our users base billing. Why are we updating our pricing plan, and how does that work?
It's funny because we're sitting next to each other, so we can also talk too. Do you want to answer this, Bas?
Yeah, I can dive a bit into this. So we've had many conversations with users about like Code Sandbox, how they're using it, why they're paying for it or why not, and what the value is that they're seeing. And based on that, we also worked on this, like how do we incorporate into this new Code Sandbox v2 that's running on VMs as well. And the main thing that we saw is having people pay the full price for just a seed for inviting someone was a bit hard for people, even if you're not using it that much, or if you're just collaborating with a lot of people, but not everyone is using it the same way. So this idea of paying for the amount of usage that you're using, no matter how many users you have, or if it's spread about like 20 people using it for 30 minutes, or one person like fully committed to it, it shouldn't really matter. And that's something that we really wanted to tackle with this new plan. Additionally, we listen to like which features are clear value adds that should be in the pro plan. What are some things that are really useful for trying CodeSandbox out? A good example of something that moved from the paid plan back into the free plan actually is the ability to have private sandboxes or private repositories. So even if you have your own like small personal website, you can now import it into CodeSandbox, and you don't have to start paying for it. You first can try it out, see how it works, see if it runs, and only if it really works, then hopefully you've seen the value of CodeSandbox and want to use it more or share it. So that was really important. How do we enable users to try CodeSandbox out for anything that they want? And then in the pro plan, how do we enable you to get the most value out of CodeSandbox, make it a fair deal? I'm not sure if you want to add something to that, Yves.
No. Great, Bas.
Now I'm jealous that you're going there in the office in Amsterdam and I'm here remotely. And I even see how is possible for me to be dark outside and you still have light. And we are like I'm in Berlin, Germany, so that's not far enough. Jealous a bit there, but we'll meet soon, hopefully. Okay, we learn more about the development during the years, the change we did in adopting Firecracker and the VM workflow, our pricing. Are we betting on CDEs going forward?
Yeah, for sure. For CDEs, it's short for Cloud Development Environment, where we run the development environment instead of on your laptop. We run it in the in the cloud, and it's something that we've wanted to enable for a long time. Like I said before, I've also worked for a while at Facebook, and for a short while, and they were already using a remote development environment for everything. And it does save a lot of time using a remote development environment. For example, one thing that I saw someone do at Facebook was they had 3 environments open at the same time, all open on different branches. And they would work in one environment and they would save the code and it would recompile. And while it was recompiling and rerunning all the tests, they would move to the second environment and do something else, which is kind of the cool thing. You are not tied to your laptop anymore. And we have the same with CodeSandbox. If you import your repository in CodeSandbox, every branch will automatically get a unique development environment. And the great thing about this is that you could, for example, be working on a feature in your editor, and if someone then asks if you can review a pull request or if you can quickly fix a bug, you don't have to do the shenanigans with git stash, with switching branches, maybe installing new dependencies. Instead, you can open like new development environment that is connected to the other branch, and you can directly move to there and continue working. And then you can also very easily move back again to what you were working on. And that is key. I think this context switching, it is one of the biggest things that that I have experienced as a time saver when using CodeSandbox for development. It's also something, CDEs, it's something that more and more companies are adopting. You have Uber, you have Google, Stripe, Facebook, Pipedrive. More and more companies are looking into using a CDE because it just makes it easier for people to get started with the code base. If someone new joins, they can go to a link, press a button, and they have an environment. It's easier to maintain the development environment because you now have one person that will maintain a development environment for the team, like making sure that it works, instead of everyone having to maintain their own development environment. And it also makes it easier to collaborate. And I think that's also a benefit that we only found very clear after starting to use CodeSandbox. Like, for example, if something needs to be changed in our copy on the website, Philippe, our marketing, he can just change it himself. And if it's a bigger change and someone else needs to make a huge change, although Philippe can almost do anything now, but if there is a bigger change, they can even just share a link to that development environment with him to ask for feedback, and you don't have to wait for a preview deployment to come up or for a staging environment to become available before you can share it, because you can share a running development environment with someone else. So I think that using a cloud development environment saves a lot of time, not just for yourself, but also for the team. And it makes the whole development process a bit more shared with others instead of on your own, sharing static code with someone else so that they can run it.
Yeah, I think something to really state there is that the power of having, like, starting from a running environment and not having to, like, just getting the files and then booting up your environment is really powerful. And that makes it way easier for anyone to get started. Because, yeah, setting up and start running an environment it takes time and a lot of things that just sometimes don't work, and that's very frustrating. And that's the beauty. You start the environment once on CodeSandbox. The first time it needs to boot up just like locally, but the second time, the third time, the 1000th time, you can just, like, it's there in 1 to 2 seconds. It's really powerful. It's really powerful, and it's great because anytime you get frustrated or if something doesn't work, like, you can just get a running environment again. At least I had some frustrations in the past with things not working out locally. So yeah, that's something that I've been really enjoying using CodeSandbox.
For sure. And we all know tech has its own karma. For sure, some things will not go perfect. So that's why we try to improve everything. That's why we try to bring new solutions on the table, and we don't need to be stuck in the same situation we were before. I also want to add a couple of resources to what Eva's mentioned earlier about the benefits. And we did have a blog post about why Eva's adopted CDEs and how he feels the benefits from working in such an environment are, which are the benefits there. Several mentioned already in the live stream too, but do give it a read to the blog post. We have the link in the chat, and you'll find it on our socials too. It's a really nice story about how Eve as the coder, because yes, he's a founder that still codes, exactly like that, full live stream, finds the benefits and what is important. Everything that we created, it's in the spirit of our values. We have them on the blog, you can check them. It is exactly that, to empower developers to do easier their work, to be accessible to everyone, exactly like Bas mentioned, to literally have a link and everyone can contribute. And all the blog on our website mentions how designers, Philippe, the marketing head of marketing person that we have at CodeSandbox, also contributes, and I'm literally every day surprised by how much he can do on his own, and literally blows our mind. Probably we'll have to move him to the engineering side too with a few hours. Maybe he wants it. Jokes aside, he did had a lot of contribution in different pages. He even contributed to the redesign of the website by implementing itself. Check out the blog post I mentioned. We'll send the resources for sure. We'll have them in the description. And stay tuned. We do want to create more on these stories. We will call them probably something like CDE stories, where we take different scenario, and accessibility to use our platform is one of them. And the last value that we mentioned in our website is the collaboration part. And this is such an important part of having so fast access to your working space, or the team's working space, onboarding people, live collaborations directly without any delays or anything to install. It's, like Bas said, super powerful. So yeah, stay tuned for more demos around that. And if you feel like there are some scenarios that you want to us to tackle, like to demo how we're doing it, because fun fact, we build CodeSandbox coding in CodeSandbox, literally an inception there. More than happy to tackle them in different series. Let's go to another tricky futuristic question. Is this the future we envision for CodeSandbox? What else is part of the future? I
This is
love the
the end.
smiles.
This is the final station. Now CodeSandbox is done, and there's nothing that we want to build. No, there's still a lot that we want to build, and there's expanding stuff that we want to build in CodeSandbox, and there is also improvements. Some of the expansions is like allowing people to build, for example, native apps in CodeSandbox, so that they can have like an Android emulator or an iOS emulator. But ultimately, the goal is that people can share work with each other, not by sharing static code, but by sharing a link to a running environment. And I would really like there to be a situation where whenever someone shares what they're working on, they can share a running version. Right now, when people share GitHub links, those are still static, and you still have to spin up an environment to be able to see that code. And that is something that makes development slower. I think this is also why CodeSandbox has grown quite a bit since the start. It makes development slower, but it also makes it harder for people to understand what's going on. So that is the ultimate goal. I think for us, it's now most important to expand our functionality so that we make this easier. One of the things that I would really like us to have is this template universe. So whenever you have an idea, you can go to this template universe. You can pick a starter from a list, and there should be a ton of starters like Astro or React or Next or Vite with different types. You can click it, and you can immediately get started with coding. and you have already everything available, source control. Ultimately, you should even have deployment available. You can just, when you have an idea, you can press a button to get started. You can keep on coding. You have source control available. And then when you're done, you press deploy and people can see it. That's the goal. That's ultimately what we are working towards, to make this whole process of idea to production as easy as possible, as fast as possible, and remove all the tooling overhead that's in between. So all the functionality that we build will also be in service of that.
And here I am hoping that you will say that we are done and we go for a vacation, everyone in Hawaii. Okay, I see. Now, jokes aside, we literally had this moment yesterday when we celebrated the release. We watched the feedback, and we already started looking what comes post-release, first tickets in, what's urgent. If something from the feedback appears to be urgent, and to tackle it early this morning. So yeah, we are more than happy to have the release, but we are upwards and onwards to make it even better. Do share your feedback with us. We listen to it. We cannot do it without you, because our users are the developers. So it should work for you too. Okie dokie. Anything from your side, Bas?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. We're also very curious about like what our users are thinking, what you're running into. Like now that we're doing this release we're out of beta, it works with GitHub, and you can use our web editor or your local VS Code editor, and it's fully collaborative. And that's really the base that we've built. But we're curious, like what are the things that people need to build there? Like there's a lot of opportunities there. Are there a lot of users that are using, for example, a JetBrains editor, connecting that to to our VMs? This will also be a possibility, or maybe diving to GitLab, and that's all features that we're looking at on our community on Circle. So go there and leave feedback there, of course. And yeah, we always try to prioritize things that people really want. So yeah, any feedback, of course, that we get helps us to make better decisions and get it faster too.
Indeed, and I'm super glad that you mentioned our community, because we do have literally two separate entries. One is for feature requests, where you can chat and see what others proposed and add your input there. We don't have quite a voting system, because we do check all of them, and our product team looks over them and will decide what to incorporate and when, but also a bugs section. And maybe helpful for those who want to do even more or learn with the help of others. We have as the community, when you can ask other developers how they tackle different situations. Oh, so many goodies in this call. Love it. And I also see we do have questions. So I'll move on with two things to announce. As you remember, at the beginning of the call, I mentioned our colleague Nicolene too, which is our head of product. I met with her earlier. Oh, wait, my fault. I forgot we have this one. So yeah, we'll still be around with one more question for our founders till we go to Nicolene. And we are going to be closing maybe with these the questions that we prepared in advance and tackle some from the audience. Bas, Yves, who wants to tackle how can CodeSandbox as a CDE be a massive value added for both individuals and teams?
I think throughout the answers on the previous questions, we kind of answered this one already. It's the main benefits that you will experience is that you can very easily work together with others. Every pull request will have a running development environment that you can use to review or check the preview. So you have you always have a full stack deployment preview available for every pull request. As a developer, it's super easy to switch between different environments, between work and one small side effect is that that the battery of your laptop will will last longer. That is something that was also an unexpected benefit. But I think yeah, the collaboration, the fast context switching, the full stack deployment previews for every pull request, and the fact that you run a pretty fast environment. We have these servers, they have i9 CPUs in them, and a big amount of RAM, so also faster builds. And so these are, I would say, huge benefits to having a cloud development environment. And it's also, I think it's important to mention that even if you're thinking about using a cloud development environment, you don't have to say immediately, oh, I'm switching everything over. You can say, for example, that you install the GitHub app of CodeSandbox towards your in your GitHub repository, and that would automatically already give every pull request a running environment, and you could still then use your laptop for development of a feature, but then you use CodeSandbox, for example, to review a pull request. You can slowly try out CodeSandbox without immediately switching to it. And when it comes to lock-in, we adopt a spec called dev containers, which is an open spec created by Microsoft, and it's supported by Visual Studio Code, for example, by default, and it's supported by Codespaces as well. So even if you configure your environment to run in CodeSandbox, it will also automatically run on your local environment and other environments. So it's also important to note that there's no lock-in in trying CodeSandbox. It's something that you can easily move if you want to.
Yeah, and I would say that's a very powerful thing where because it's so similar to local, it's easy when you have your environment set up already on your MacBook or laptop. You can keep using that, but only for the PRs or for the reviewing, where you really don't want to switch. But it is important to maybe test it, do some proper QA, to have an actual running environment. That's where CodeSandbox shines. And because it's compatible with local, runs the same way, it's also easy for, as an individual in a team, to adopt CodeSandbox and already get some of that value. But you don't need everyone in a team to move over at the same time. It's something that was really important for us to make that experience as similar to local as possible. Because it's just bad if you need to before we can use CodeSandbox, we need to change everything and adopt all the things, refactor all. No, you can just keep using it the same way. Just set it up once and branch from that with the entire team.
Indeed, I think it is a change, and some people are more exciting, some are early adopters, some are more reticent about it. So give it a try. That's literally what I would invite everyone to do. See how it goes. Move slowly towards some of the activities you have. For me, it was really important to have this when we onboarded new people. It was very fast, and the collaboration part. But again, when you're working independently on something small or not related to others, maybe still okay to do a local net after loaded it for the team and all. But give it a try. I'm eager to see the feedback that you have, especially for those that do believe local is good, because we learned so much on the situation that we can address to make it feasible for everyone there. Going further, as I was hurried earlier to mention, we do have a recorded walkthrough with our head of product, Nicolene. She goes through the dashboard changes that we have related to VMs and our user-based billing settings, our plans there. So the link is ready. We're already live with it on YouTube. Give it a look after, and again, ask questions, share feedback. We are super eager to learn how this feels for you. And to make it more easy for us to celebrate, and I think that the slides don't have it, but nevertheless, look out for our social media, because we are going to give all the details there. We want to announce that we have 5 golden tickets, and you might say, what? Golden tickets? We are not like a show. There's no confetti popping yet, but we are looking for 5 new milestones that we can reach with CodeSandbox CDE. I'm not gonna mention them because I know how people are, trying to gamify everything and go get to those. But as soon as we reach those 5, we are gonna announce the theme of them, the subject of them, and the team or individual that wins it. This is a little tip that I gave you there. And we're going to post on our community all the details about it. What doesn't mean a golden ticket will be a month where you will have access to unlimited VMs. Again, all the details will be on social media. Check it there. And I'm really eager to see who wins them and afterwards how they use them. Thanks so much for joining today. I do think that we have a couple of questions, not too many, but feel free to add them. And I think we can tackle a few of them. Bas, Yves, ready? I think first I would go with one that you already explained partially, Yves. And anything you want to add for the Firecracker topic?
Oh, yeah, this is, I like this question. I can take a long time to answer this question because it's a very, it's a very
Well, we can plan
fun
a
question.
CD story coming or a story only. We record
Yeah,
or have a live sessions with you next week too. But
yeah,
let's hear a shorter version. I'm
yeah.
keeping you counted for that.
We run everything on Firecracker. That's true. All the VMs they run on Firecracker, and the reason that we run it on Firecracker is because of two things. One, they are pretty lightweight. They can start an operating system within 600 milliseconds approximately. And two, we can snapshot its memory. And that's a key feature of CodeSandbox, which we heavily use. So essentially, we can pause a VM at any point in time. So let's say it's running a Next.js server. We can pause the VM and then save its memory to disk. And then later on, when you come back to it, we can resume the VM from that same memory, and it will continue exactly where it left off. Similar to if you would close your MacBook, open it a day later, and it will still continue exactly what it was doing. That's a key feature that we utilize a lot, because whenever you go to CodeSandbox and you go to a template or something, and you press fork, we clone that template using Firecracker. We create a new Firecracker VM, and we let that new Firecracker VM read from the memory of the existing VM using the same system that we use to serialize the VM to disk, serialize the memory to disk. And that is, I have written about this. I've written 2 blog posts about this on CodeSandbox, so on the CodeSandbox blog, so that you can also read more about that there. But that's an incredibly powerful feature. There are also challenges with running Firecracker. For example, we had to build our own scheduler, for running the VMs, and we had to build our own manager, the VM hypervisor. Well, the hypervisor of the VM hypervisors, I would say, to run those VMs. And with that custom infrastructure, we had to make a lot of tweaks to make that scalable. But nowadays, yeah, we run a sort of fake version of Kubernetes that we've built for Firecracker. And all the VMs, they run in Firecracker. And now you have all those benefits of being able to clone environments quickly. Like, for example, for a pull request, we start like an environment whenever the pull request is opened. But we clone that environment from the main branch. So if you have a database, for example, in your repository, you can seed a lot of data in the VM of the main branch. And whenever a pull request opens, that pull request will have a new VM that's cloned from the main branch. So the pull request will have a new VM, but with the data from the database of the main branch. You could even run migrations in there, and it will have its own database. So you essentially get branchable databases that way as well. And it will also feel like every branch is always running, because whenever you are away from a branch or from a dev box, we will serialize its memory. And when you come back, we can resume that VM within 2 seconds. So after inactivity, we will serialize that memory. So yeah, it's Firecracker is the thing that powers everything. And I think Firecracker is also the key reason that we are able to give a fast experience where it feels like every branch always has a running development environment available.
Thanks, Yves. And we did share in the chat the 2 blog posts that he wrote. Honestly, they were one of the most read, and people had really good feedback and questions related to them. And we also like when Yves writes, so give a thumbs up there for the blogger in him. Yeah, the second question was more in terms of comparison, or what does CodeSandbox brings. The user did correct. The question was, how does this differ to GitHub Spaces? And I want to make it more generic, because we are not here to compare with one platform or another. What does CodeSandbox in short terms brings new or different?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing to remember there is the benefits of collaboration and speed. So when you look at cloud tools in other spaces, so let's take, for example, Figma. Figma has moved the design from your local environment, from Sketch, for example, from file sharing to the browser. And one of the biggest benefits of Figma is that now everyone can see designs live. Like if a designer needs to get feedback from the product manager, they can just send a link and they can see it. And that is the key feature that we enable. When you look at other cloud development environments, you don't have that functionality. You still have your own kind of closed-off environment that you run in the cloud, but you still cannot share it as easily with other people. If you go to a GitHub repository and you want to get started, you still need to spin up a new environment. You don't see the code running by default. And so the key differentiator for CodeSandbox is we create a unique environment for every branch that you can share at any time. I could be working on one branch, and then I can share a link in Slack, and anyone at any time can see that running version. That is something that is with other platforms not built in, the kind of collaboration that you get like with CodeSandbox. The fact that you can that environments are shared by default. And then the other part is the speed, and that is Firecracker. The fact that we can spin up these environments extremely quickly. I think that's how we really wanted CodeSandbox to differentiate. We didn't want to just put your environment in the cloud. We were also thinking, if you put your environment in the cloud, if you make the development environment, if you run that on a server, what other benefits does that bring, and how can we enable those? And that is that's the key difference.
Thanks so much. Yes, really important benefits, values that we share mentioned there. So in a nutshell, again, these are the things that drive us to build the product, not just simply have yet another environment for people to code. We really saw the need. I think Yves also explains the beginning of CodeSandbox from his personal need, and how we grew up to have such a big product that we can, address several other scenarios from developer side. Thanks so much for taking the questions. Thanks to our users and our maybe user or fans, or people interested about CodeSandbox that address the questions both on LinkedIn, Twitter, or X. I'm still having an adjustment moment there with the X, and YouTube. If you have more questions, and we will add it after the live stream, we will tackle them on social media, so don't hesitate to add them. Thanks, Buzz, Yves, for joining me today in this chat. And with you all, I will see you in the next live stream that we have. Stay tuned. There are more to come. We just started.
Yo.